Testing 1, 2. Let's make sure this is working. I think it's time for a new mic cable. Got feedback. 1 second here. Alright, let's try it now. See if we're doing any better. Okay, everything's still on. Alright, cool. Well, hello everybody. Interesting situation beginning to take shape here. A lot of new trends with model data again. I didn't even know if I was going to end up streaming or not, but here we are. So we have it. So basically what we have going on right now, the storm chaser names are up and nobody's out chasing. Let me fix that really quick. But simply put, what you're seeing down here, this rain, at some point we're going to start to see some conversion to snow, or that's what we were expecting to see. I'm still not entirely sure if I'm fully sold on it, because like I said, model data's been all over the place with this. It's been to the point where we've even had reconnaissance aircraft that we use for, yes, the hurricane hunters, to try to figure out where this surface low is and try to get some better forecasting data out of this. And, well, it hasn't really helped. We're basically in two scenarios right now where this low that's still in the Gulf of Mexico right now will be crossing over the Big Bend of Florida here. We'll have to be on watch for two situations where if this trends off to the north and west, the rain snow line pushes a little bit further towards the north, hence why we have the winter weather advisories and even the winter storm warning in south central Georgia. Or this becomes even less of a factor for the Carolinas than what it already is. There's also a lot of moving components with that, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. Then also, this becomes a factor towards the Delmarva and maybe even towards the vineyards over here towards the mid-Atlantic and northeast. Winter storm watches are in effect for these areas. But not a lot of certainty exists with this as well, because again, how this low ends up tracking from the Gulf is also going to affect the results that we end up having here. And it's a big deal if you're a football fan, especially because there's a big playoff game in Boston. The Houston Texans will be playing against the New England Patriots. And based off of recent trends, the likelihood is that we will be seeing snow entering the equation here. Great football weather, but considering Houston isn't necessarily from the south, considering Houston is from the south, not necessarily accustomed to snow, that may sway the advantage a little bit. We'll have to wait and see how things progress. But let's go ahead now and actually take a look at said model data here. Again, appreciate you guys joining me. I'm a football fan myself. I'm actually a Texans fan. Hopefully that doesn't disappoint anybody. If so, it is what it is. But one thing that I'm going to be paying very close attention to is I'm struggling to get my applications to work properly. There we go. Is the fact that weather often can impact games. The colder weather, sometimes the thinner air can allow for longer kicks, for deeper throws, etc. So that's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But let's go ahead and look at the model data here. We're going to kind of be all over the place. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of data to go over, or a lot of models to go over. Data is a little bit more sketchy. So we're going to take a deep dive and kind of go in from there. But we'll start out with the Euro, and obviously by this point the storm has exited out the area. So let's see if, I'm pretty sure the overnight models haven't come in just yet. I still have a storm chaser name up here. Nothing against Justin, but I do need to take that off of there. But alright. So as you can see, this is our area of interest. Here is our low over here in the Gulf. It's kind of meandering around the overnight hours. You can see everything right now is all rain. The 32-degree line is actually highlighted right here in the blue. It's this first blue line here that has the number 540 on it. So Just something to remember, the 540 line is always something you pay attention to when it comes to the weather. That's your 32-degree line, it's your freezing line. So if we keep moving this forward here, you can see that a lot of the moisture towards the northern half of the states, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, not much of anything to be had here. Classic case of moisture outrunning the cold, nothing new for the southeast, anything of the like here. It's really over towards central Georgia where things kind of take an interesting turn by the time we get into the early morning hours. You can see we have some moisture interacting with that 32-degree line, and as a result, we end up getting a rain-snow line developing towards the central part of the state by about 7 a.m. from the looks of it here. Look at where the low is at right now, because this is going to vary on other models. You can see how it's closer towards the coastline. This is that northwest trend that I was talking about just a little bit ago. You can see the low beginning to develop right here, and it really kind of pops up on the map here at this point within the next couple frames after this point here. But this little circle becomes our low pressure. And like I said, if that low is closer to shore, we get more snow inland. If this ends up pushing out to sea more, we see a lot less snow. By the time we get towards game time over towards the northeastern states, then we're kind of looking at an interesting scenario where we could get some early snow showers by the time we get into noon. And then by the time we get into peak time for the game, these snow showers are going to be more persistent over time, and then we'll end out the game most likely with snow as well. So chances have really ramped up since the last couple of days here, where I just wasn't quite certain as to what would happen in either area of interest at this point. Now again, like I said before, this is only one model, and one thing that is kind of unanimous between all of them is by the time we get into Monday morning, this system's already out. So this is going to be a quick mover. We're not going to see significant snowfall totals. Some of these areas a little bit further off towards the south and especially the northern half of the states, you still could see snow flurries theoretically, but don't expect anything beyond a trace of snow. And even in the areas where snow is a little bit more likely, I wouldn't expect anything more than an inch of snow at this point in time. Now obviously with winter storms, especially the southern ones, they're very finicky, very hard to forecast, so be aware for any changes. Outside of that, though, let's go ahead and take a look at the GFS. Because one of the big trends that I've noticed throughout the course of the week here has been the GFS being the more aggressive of the two models and always kind of keeping more of that northwestern trend here. And if we continue to move the model forward here, kind of have a similar look. Here's our low pressure right here off the coastline, but we have a better moisture shield with this. And as a result, we end up seeing more moisture interacting with the cold air. This would put Atlanta into the equation for a little bit more in the way of winter weather, and even parts of southeastern Alabama. And then the southern half of Georgia here starts out as all rain. As time goes on, we end up seeing this transition to all snow. This will lower the totals if you were to get any accumulating snow further off towards the south, but you will probably see heavier snow as a result too. So like I said, the totals at this point are still going to be pretty touch and go, I would say. And then as we continue to go forward, this low actually really gets quite a bit stronger, I'd say. We have a 7 millibar drop from 1014 to 1007. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. But this also kind of slows things down just a little bit. The snow showers up towards the northeast aren't going to be quite as persistent as a result of this. But once it finally does come in, you're going to get a pretty good burst of snow right around 7 o'clock here. So like I said, still a lot of questions to be had. Like I said, the one other thing that's unanimous is this system moves out by Monday morning, and then we're kind of left over with remnants from that point. And more so, it's really going to be kind of a lake effect event from that point onward. Now, one thing that's really nice now at this range is that we can take a look at the convective models here. And this is really what I've been waiting on, just to try to gain a little bit more confidence. But even these have kind of been all over the place. Now, one thing that I do like about the convective models, they show that low pressure a little bit earlier here. If I go back in these frames a little bit, pretty much towards where our current time is now, you can actually see it out in the Gulf, just like what we were seeing on weather-wise. This is our low pressure here. It strengthens a little bit, kind of falters just a skosh as we go throughout the early morning hours and overnight tonight. This becomes a 10:14 low by the time we get towards about 4 or 5 a.m. for the southeast here. And one thing I've noticed, at least with the HRRR, is that so far the trend is more so northwestward, maybe just a tad bit stronger, maybe by about 1 millibar. But that in these situations, it does make a huge difference. But we're kind of trending more with the euro with this model here. And as we go further along, it's kind of the same old story. Timing's a little bit later, so snow chances are still kind of variable when you're looking over towards the northeast and the Delmarva. We do come to a point where if this scenario were to play out, we're looking at maybe Delmarva getting into the action by about maybe 3 or 4 o'clock. And then from that point, we see this transition off to the northeast. Now, some newer model data that I haven't really gotten to take a look at because it takes a lot longer to get in is, of course, the euro. And the euro is going to be, or not the euro, the NAM 3 kilometer here. Having trouble speaking. It's a lot to keep up with. But if we were to go ahead and take a look at this, kind of a similar scenario to what the HRRR is showing. A little bit more consistent with what the euro data is showing. Moisture kind of stays hampered further off towards the south. The snow band is pretty impressive on this one. Not surprising to see, as the euro is usually, I did it again. The NAM 3 kilometer is one of the more aggressive models as far as the convectives are concerned. But pretty much a similar deal. The NAM is being a little bit more aggressive with the pressure as a whole here. We could be flirting with a sub 1,000 millibar low potentially if this were to strengthen a little bit further. But depending on what you want as the outcome, that could be a bad thing, actually. Because you would think that the stronger the storm, maybe you'd get more snow, but that also creates an influx of more warm air. So less snow would be likely over here, the stronger this low pressure would get. That's just pretty much how the atmosphere tends to work. There are, of course, outliers. That's the run-of-the-mill thing that we often will end up running into. This does end up going into a sub-1,000 millibar storm here. And further off towards the northeast, we get some pretty impressive totals. But that's also because the cold air and moisture meet up at a good point in time here. And really, that's the most universal thing, is timing when it comes to weather. Severe weather, winter weather, it's all the same. So paying close attention to this area before the football game and after the football game as well, because it's a crucial game, because we're not far from the championship game in the NFL, and there's going to be 2 more games left before that champion is decided. One of the games is happening tomorrow. So let's go ahead and trying to see which ones I want to compare next, because I pretty much looked at what I would consider to be the most reliable of the bunch here. I've been liking how the RFS has been operating as of late, even though it's technically an experimental model. Normally it's my self-rule not to really mess with those as much because, like I said, experimental, it's not for decision making. But I have been curious due to positive performance that I've seen out of it as of late. A lot of storm chasers have been pretty impressed with it, so I might consider using it a little bit more. Like I said, it's my self-rule not to use any experimental models in any way, shape, or form, hardly. For the most part, though, this is staying consistent with the other convective models, which is to be expected. And then we'll kind of go on from that point. How you doing, G, bro? Now, see, here's what I was talking about earlier. This is actually a perfect example of what I was talking about with the low pressure becoming stronger. Already here, this is notably different from what we've been seeing on the other models. 10-13 millibar low, weaker, end up seeing more moisture interacting with the cold air. Notice that 540 line, which is a little bit further off to the south than other models, is further off towards the north here. That's 5 millibars of difference, and look what that does. Also, there's a little bit more of a jog out towards the sea in this case as well. So this allows for also maybe a little bit lower snowfall totals here towards the southeast. It does look like we still will get something, but it's going to be a lot less impressive than what we would get in the other scenarios here. But the thing is, this model is pretty much an outlier amongst the bunch, so a lot less confidence to be had there. Also, while it kind of stiffs the southeast in regards to snow potential, it actually creates more snow potential maybe for the northern states, because this is again 7 a.m. right here that we're looking at, and you can see a little snow band begin to develop here. Now, does this exact scenario come into fruition if we were to go all the way with this? I'm not entirely sure, but it does bring a little bit more moisture further up towards the north where the cold air is already in place. And like I said before, timing is always everything with these systems. But the other thing with this, and this kind of takes away the weather advantage for the Patriots, probably be the fact that the snowfall would be more intermittent. Now, does it end up making the ground wet? That's to be determined. But either way, though, by the time the game is ending and people are heading home or trying to travel home, this is where we would start to see some problems here, because the snow really starts to pick up. And that's in pretty much most of the scenarios that I've seen after the fact. So after about 7, 8 o'clock Eastern time is when I would expect peak snow over towards the northeast. And then this would probably last into the evening and overnight hours here. Because by the time we would get into the overnight, this is when we finally start to see that snow band kind of head out of there. And then from that point, we're trying to figure out what's next. So I guess now, either we can ask questions, or maybe we can, or maybe we can go with questions, or I can take a look at the weather pattern ahead here. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to live stream this or not. The timing seems like it's going to be kind of wacky. If I can get up early enough, I'll give it a shot. Also, I'm going to be watching that football game tomorrow, because I'm actually a Texans fan. But I'm a weather nerd nonetheless. When it comes to the weather, I'm unbiased. So, at the end of the day, whatever happens with the weather just happens. Still rooting for my team either way. Either way, if there's any, I just want to know if we have any questions now. Feel free to shoot. We don't bite here. Unless you're a troll. Then I'll bite you. Well, not even then. Anyway, though. Any questions, feel free to shoot. I see a few of you on here. Come on, there's 6 of you on here. Don't be shy. If no one has a question, sheesh, man. Hope I at least explained things half decent. If I didn't, then, like I said, let me know. But, anyway, I guess if there are no questions, I might call it a stream here. I don't know if maybe chat's not showing them. Alright, well, guess that's that. Wait. Hang on a minute. Seems like there's messages coming in, but I'm not seeing them. What's going on? Do I need to get up YouTube's behind again? Because I just looked on my analytics here also. I see 2 messages come in based off of the chat rate, but I can't see them. What's the deal, YouTube? Come on, man. Making a fool out of me. Let me see if there's a way I can fix it. I hope there is. I mean, if there isn't, then I'm sorry. But I do see your messages, I guess. Or I see that you're trying to say something. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, though. Either way, I appreciate you all tuning in up to this point. I'm gonna see if one gets through. Maybe I can figure something out. Had to pull that screen off to the side. Hey, what's up, Amputee? What's up, RC? Not much. Just preparing to see what happens with this winter storm off to the south here. We pretty much have already gone over the details and the different scenarios that could play out. I was just trying to see what's going on with my chat messages here. I think somebody was trying to reach out to me, but I couldn't see the messages. Why that is, I do not know. But yeah, I was just asking chat if there was any questions that you have, whether it's for your area or just anywhere in general. Just feel free to let me know, I guess. But yeah, I'm just trying to sift through here and see what's going on. Yeah, I'm looking at my settings right now. I'm wondering if there's a small chance that there's somebody that might be blocked on there that's trying to say something. But if that's the case, then I'm going to leave them blocked, because if you get blocked here on this channel, usually it's for a reason. Whether it was myself or my mods that did it. Because people like to be funky on here. Well, yeah, we do have quite a list of people that have had to get the hammer slammed down on them. Well, I guess that's it, though. Oh, sorry, guys. I mean, not really much else to do here. I mean, if you want me to go over the... Well, tell you what. I'll do this. I'll do a voting poll real quick. I'll give you like 2 minutes. Uh-oh. Can you hear me? Should be back on if it fell off. My mic's been acting weird. Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing on my settings here that would inhibit anyone from speaking on here unless they're blocked. So, I guess it is what it is. But what I was gonna say though was, all right, so we got one vote. I guess that's enough. So, not gonna lie to you, haven't had a chance to really look at the latest models from the long range here. Hey, what's up, ATR? But I guess we're both going to be reacting in real time, and I'll just kind of analyze what I see. So I'm not going to run this too fast. I'm still trying to figure out what's the right speed to have the loop play at when I do the regular videos. But one thing that I have picked up on based off of the recent model data is the fact that, geez, this thing just wants to freeze on me, doesn't it? It does not want to behave at all. Let's try and refresh this. Maybe it'll do better. South Carolina is kind of in a tricky spot when it comes to snow tomorrow. You guys are dealing with kind of a warm nose effect because that low begins to strengthen. So it could be kind of touch and go. And then also, it would almost bode better for you. No? I don't know. It's tough. The further inland you are to the state might be a little bit better. Like I said, I see a lot of warm nosing going on with that, so you might get a mix, but I think South Georgia, maybe the Georgia-South Carolina line might see some. Ooh, you might get something. You honestly might get something tonight more than you would tomorrow, possibly. Yeah, if you're upstate, then that might not work for you. Yeah, because we talked about it a little bit earlier in the stream. Models are kind of all over the place with your area. But for the most part, you do get a period where you could see some action. But the totals are going to be limited. The Euro's kind of playing in your favor. GFS honestly probably has been the best one. Let me actually just stick with this window here. GFS is probably giving you the best chance. I do think that you'll probably end up seeing a wintry mix at some point. Ooh, very eastern part of the state. Yeah, that might not work out as well for you. Yeah, that warm nose is eating you guys up. You can actually kind of see it on here if you zoom in. Like literally, the warm nose is right there. It's on the southwestern flank of that low, where you just get that sneaky little point. It's highlighted really well by this contour line that develops here. That's your warm nose right there. And it ends up kind of kicking everyone towards the coastline, up towards the mountains out of the equation. At best, you might get a dusting, and that's if you're lucky. But it's just a classic southeastern setup problem that we have. You're going to be like right on, yeah, like I said, you're going to be like right on the edge of it. You might get something, but like I said, it's not going to be much. I hate to tell you. If it makes you feel any better, up here in Atlanta, not really expecting much of anything, but it's areas further to the south that are expecting snow. Like my mom's side of the family lives over towards Augusta. They're almost certainly going to get more snow than us. So, yeah, the warm nose is killing you guys. you could get something, but uh, it literally is like right on. You're literally, man. If you're looking for snow, it's just I feel bad for you. There is that chance you could get lucky, but I wouldn't hold my breath. I'm just gonna tell you straightforward. Oh, you don't have to worry about anything, G bro. You aren't getting much of anything. Yeah, you're not getting anything, G bro. Oh yeah, you definitely could see something if you go towards the South Carolina line. I have high confidence in that. So if you chase that, definitely a good call. Yeah, you're gonna have to move for this one. This isn't the sit-at-home chase, which we all love, especially when it comes to winter weather. So I would love a sit-in day here at home if winter weather were to come through, but this does not seem like that's going to happen here. I'll show you the convectives real quick, and then you can decide. It's so hard to say because the thing about it is these models have been trending back and forth pretty much every run. So every 6 hours, you could see something different. There's still so much time left. It could literally go the other way still, and this whole entire discussion that I've had tonight could end up being meaningless. So honestly, like if there's anything that I hate forecasting, it's these southern winter storms because they are so hard to nail down. Yeah, it's never good when it's that when we're at this range and we still don't know. So it's just an ugly, ugly scenario. And then somebody could end up either being a big winner or big loser depending on your perspective. Somebody could get smacked by snow and it could turn into an ugly situation or turns into nothing. By the way, we're looking at the HRRR here. HRRR is not quite as generous with the snow as some of the other models here. The global models have been the most aggressive. Yeah, and you're happy for them. The question is, are they happy? That's the golden question there. Because not everybody around here is a fan of snow. A lot of people actually just start out freaking out, just like flat going crazy. Have a few friends further towards South Georgia. I wonder what they're thinking right now. The way some of them don't even pay attention to the weather may even tell me that they probably don't even see it coming. If they do, they haven't made mention of it on social media. So, it says a lot. Okay, there we go. So I was wrong. I was actually looking at the double RFS. HRRR looks about the same though, so it's not like it was that much different. So you could have passed one for the other. Well, did get a vote here to do a long range or an extended forecast, so yes, you gotta love Fantasyland. You see all the madness there. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at model data here real quick and kind of go forward. It's not like we have much else to do. When is Virginia getting snow? North Star, that should be right around noon, I would say. Models are still kind of varying with the timing, so don't completely take my word for it, but hopefully this behaves. HRRR just went the other way with it now. Wow. Yeah, I've seen that. When I looked at model data on, I think it was Thursday, I saw the potential for it, but obviously it's not a trend that I've picked up on with multiple models just yet. If GFS and the Euro are both showing it, I'm feeling better about it, but at this range, like you said, it's still kind of hard. So here's the interesting part about all of this North Star. It's the fact that we have an interesting scenario for the northern states too, whereas for the southern states, the strength of the low is determining who ends up getting snow along with the track. By this point, a lot of models are in agreement with where the low is placed, but the low strength is going to be the determining factor for Virginia. Because with this low being stronger, with the pressure dropping, you can see a little warm nose that kind of develops right around here. That ends up turning a lot of the snow that would already be in place into either freezing rain or grapple or an ugly like cold rain here. Because you can see this is the 540 line right here. This is your 32-degree line basically. And you can still see green on here. So when it comes to Virginia, it's becoming more of a touch and go situation as time goes on. Because the thing is, when the pressure drops with these storm systems, you're thinking, okay, more moisture is available with more snow. But usually when you have more moist air being introduced into the equation, you also have warm air too. And that warm air is going to go somewhere. And this is where it ends up going. So this is where the warm nose ends up meeting up with the moisture. And it almost acts kind of like a wedge here. So you probably end up getting more warm air aloft than anything else here. Oh yeah, Maryland's going to get something out of this. Yeah, because what ends up happening as time goes on, as we go throughout the day, that cold air is only going to win out, especially once the sun sets. And then from that point, all of this on the back end here of the storm system ends up transitioning to all snow. And then really the big winners outside of like South Georgia, where you could maybe get like an isolated area above an inch or so, is going to be over here towards the Delmarva all the way up into the Vinelands around New England. This is where we could expect potentially 2-4 inches. Winter storm watches are actually issued for these areas. So there is that to keep in mind as well. So like I said, there's a lot of moving parts with the system. And the other thing about it is, depending on the model, the scenario kind of shifts a bit. Notice on this one, we're looking at the GFS now. This is weaker, but because there's not a warm nose here, there's more cold air in place. The moisture doesn't really change, and we end up getting more snow towards the eastern parts of Virginia. If we go to the Euro, and we look at the same hour, it's actually a pretty similar deal. Oh, wait, what? What the heck? I didn't click on an ensemble here. What the heck? Or did I? Yeah, guys, I totally meant to do that. Crazy computer. Now, here's one thing about the Euro. The Euro looks like it's a little bit stronger in this scenario, but also the cold air kind of lags back as well with this one. And the reasoning for that is because we end up trending a little bit harder off to the northwest from its original track here. So here's our low right here. And you would think that, okay, this is pretty much a prevalent equation for the southeast, but as this goes through the big bend here, this kind of goes a little bit closer to shore. And with this being closer to shore, you get more warm air. So like I said, depending on where this low ends up being positioned along with its strength is going to be everything. It's a lot, like I said, it's a lot to take in. And then towards the end, maybe you could get something. But Euro, if you're looking for drier conditions or maybe a little bit less than snow, the Euro is your friend. Otherwise, pretty much every other model is your friend if you're looking for snow. All right. So now I guess we'll go ahead and take a look at the extended pattern here. Obviously at this point, considering the fact that my computer probably is angry with me and trying to do a loop is not going to work, I'm just going to have to do it manually frame by frame. So here we go. So we have two pieces of energy here, and this is really why our winter storm is possible here. We have this stronger piece of energy. This is what brought that snow over towards your area, G-Bro. This and another feature that actually ended up going offshore as well. So we'll watch this head out. The other thing about this, and this probably hasn't been talked about enough, there's going to be some brutally cold air coming in towards the deep south after the fact here. You can see the troughing here, and then as this continues to go forward, you get another reinforcing shot of cold air to come in behind this. And it comes in particularly around Tuesday. Coldest air is mainly going to be over to the Ohio Valley and parts of the Northeast. But as we go forward, we start to finally level out maybe by the middle part of the week before yet another push comes in after the fact. As we get towards the 24th into the 25th, I'm on watch for maybe a little severe weather being possible over towards the Gulf Coast, even though at this point it looks like we're kind of downtrending, if anything. But one other thing I'm keeping an eye out for, and this could be another feature I'm watching as well, we may have the potential for yet another wintry system. I'm not betting on this one for sure. This is at a reasonable range. If we could get some kind of low pressure to manifest here, we could have something. Moisture is going to be a key question, and then also interaction with or cold air mixing is going to be another part of the equation as well. One thing that is going to be for certain is it looks like if we hold this trend with the jet stream, it's going to be some pretty strong winds as well for these areas. After this passes through, it looks like we kind of level off for a bit. And then this is the look that you were talking about, ATR, where things kind of get interesting, which is towards the 28th. So at this point, we're not so far into fantasy land yet, but we're still on the far end of the range here. Now, obviously, in the upper levels of the atmosphere, it's not always a great read in regards to what we get for our cold air, but you definitely see a piece of energy kind of popping up here around some point in time, and it kind of lines up with this. If these two end up phasing, it becomes a more interesting situation, but it's a pretty dynamic one nonetheless. We'll watch that move out, and then looks like we're going to get another reinforcing shot of cold air, maybe to follow towards the beginning of next month as well. So seems like we're going to have a lot more headaches ahead in trying to forecast what's next here. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the European model has to offer in the long range once that's available. But I probably won't be able to take a look at that until essentially Monday. So like I said, I have no idea if I'll even be able to cover the winter weather or not. I want to go live for it, but you know, it's kind of touch and go. The timing and performance is really going to be the key factor there. Alright, so let's go ahead. Oh wow, 0Z's already coming in. Should I take a look at 0Z, guys? Or should I just play with the cards I have in hand right now? Because we're not even halfway through that model run, so it's kind of a mood point. No, it's screw it. We're going to do it. Because we need the latest data for this current storm that we're dealing with. We don't want to always look too far ahead to the future. We need to look at the present first. The future is nice, but present matters now. We got to be in the now. So, latest trend, more of a northwestward trend, so that makes things even more interesting. So if you're still here, ATR, definitely recommend going to Georgia South Carolina line if you're going to be chasing snow. Make sure you're careful, of course. And then this becomes an even more friendly scenario for Virginia now. That low, it stays pretty strong, but we don't end up seeing the warm nose here because it seems like it pushes out to sea a bit more too. And then, of course, we look at Boston and the New England area really starting to get slammed by the time we get to sunset. And then from that point, things kind of are what they are. I'm really intrigued to see if that severe weather setup that I was watching earlier this week is still in the cards. As of right now, I'm kind of leaning towards it not. It definitely doesn't look like it. Stronger low pressure really kind of shows itself here around the 24th. And then from that point, we're talking about maybe another big system for the Northeast around the 24th into the 25th. Then off we go. All right. I guess I'll go back to 18 and look at the rest of the run. This is probably going to be consistent with what we've been seeing. All right, so this is the 25th. Going beyond that point. Here you go, ATR. Here's another look at the next system here. 540 line's pretty far to the north, so again, we're in fantasy land like we talked about, or as I like to call it, no man's land. But do see the potential for maybe some mixing, but maybe occurring over towards the Mississippi Delta. Then over time, here's that piece of Gulf energy that I was talking about here, possibly coming into play with another trough. If phasing occurs, this seems a little bit more realistic, but incredibly bullish at this point. I don't know if this holds up, but this is a pretty crazy run that I'm seeing here that could occur within the next 11 days. And like I said, I'm 100% against hyping these up. The winds for this storm that's coming up now. The thing with this storm is I don't expect the winds to be all that strong. We could take a look at them, but I'm not expecting anything of major significance. In fact, let's not even use this model. I'm going to actually use one of the convective models. So that way you can get a look at it from hour to hour. Okay, so this is about our current time right now. Genuinely might be time for a new mic. I wouldn't expect gust to be an issue. That's what I was trying to say. My mic just randomly cut out on me and then disconnected. But what I was going to say, are you serious? The Falcons hired Kevin. Okay, try not to focus too much on football right now, but just saw some really weird news. But yeah, I don't think wind is going to be too much of an issue during where you would expect some winter weather. The max gust that I've seen up here is up to about 15 miles an hour. So power outages, unlikely, I would say. You aren't going to get enough snow and ice accumulation for it to really mean much of anything at this point. I would say that maybe at best you guys get about maybe an inch or two of snow. If you were to get maybe a tenth of an inch of ice, maybe we would be talking about something, but I find that unlikely as well. And then on top of that, with this system being as quick moving as it is, it's not like you're going to have a lot of precipitation for long, so I wouldn't expect outages, and even if you do get them, they're not going to be prolonged outage. But yeah, see with the HRRR here, for example, some areas are struggling to even get an inch of snow, so wouldn't be worried about much of anything there. Hey, Moderate, how you doing? Ooh. Okay, so we got... Yeah, just some cold weather. Maybe a little trace of snow. That's about it. Nothing I would be worried about. The most aggressive model that I've seen in regards to totals might be the GFS. And even then, it's not really giving you a whole lot there even. At best, you might get 2 inches. Like I said, 1 to 2 inches seems to be the most likely deal. From that point, nothing really noteworthy. Like I said, the real winners probably are going to be over here towards South Georgia, maybe in this little corner of Florida here, if they get lucky and it starts to mix early. Then, of course, over towards Delmarva heading into the New England and the vineyards here could be a point of interest as well. But yeah, Virginia honestly gets kind of stifled by this a bit. If you're looking for snow, it's really all about perspective. Do you want snow? Do you not want snow? But in this case, I stopped playing metal. Oh, no, absolutely not. I just haven't really had a need to play it while I'm live. That's all. I still have my guitars, of course. In fact, if you check out my other channel, I just put up a guitar cover the other day. In fact, I've already put up 2 guitar covers for this year. And I have another one set up for next month. So yeah, I'm still playing metal. You don't have to worry about that. I don't think I'll ever stop. I feel like I'd go crazy if I did. Yeah, you will never have to worry about me not playing metal. Let me look at the blend of models here. Get a good look at the numbers. Yeah, it's pretty consistent, about an inch at best. Okay, so I'm trying to think here of what we can do before we go. Obviously, I can't play guitar at night because then my neighbors are going to have a field day with me. And then also YouTube will have a field day with me if I try to cover anything. Because then the stream ends up getting demonetized. And it's not like I make much off here to begin with. I make pennies, essentially. But still, being demonetized is no good. Because they're very, I can't say that on here. If I say what I want to say on here, I'll probably get demonetized for just simply saying, yeah. I make smiles. I try. I'd love to make more people smile, but YouTube doesn't want me to get out to people. It's the most views I've had in a stream in months. At least that's how it feels. But shoot, I'm trying to think what else I could. I'm trying to think what else could we do here. Um, we got pretty much went over everything, even including the newest model data, which is still actively coming in. But like beyond that point, the system that I'm kind of there is a system I'm kind of watching in the long range, but obviously I'm not trying to hype up anything that's past 120 hours out. And even then, like as you can see now, the system that we're looking at currently, I mean, we still don't really have much of a handle as to what to expect. So, yeah. Tough forecast ahead. Tough forecasting ahead. The model guidance definitely helps, but it doesn't always make it easier. Sometimes it makes it worse. And I mean a lot worse. So one other thing I think I'm gonna just finish out the rest of this model run here with the precip rate, and then I guess we'll call it a night. Not trying to keep you guys up extra late, obviously. I don't know what plans you guys have for the weekend. For me, my team, the Houston Texans, are in the playoffs. I feel like we could beat the Patriots. We should be able to. The weather might not make things easier for us, but I think the team is good enough to get the job done. But that's pretty much going to be my day. Like I said, I have no idea if things will line up in such a way to where I could live stream. But we'll see. As far as anything beyond that point, there's a system around the 24th that I'm keeping an eye out for. And then I'm watching the trends maybe towards the very end of the month, somewhere between the 28th to the 30th, that I'm keeping an eye out for. And then that's that. These are some of the early looks that I'm seeing. Not a whole lot to have faith in, but nonetheless, something that I'm going to have to pay close attention to. Because one thing about it, social media world loves to talk, even if it's a run that's probably not even going to last another 2 days. So with that in mind, what time would the weather hit Virginia? Probably around noon. Like I said, that's one other thing that I'm still kind of struggling with right now, is the model data varies with the timing. But it definitely seems consistent with right around noon, between then and like probably 2 p.m. Probably would peak around 4 to 5, and then by the time we get towards 7, 8 p.m., the worst should be over. So there's that. Yeah, either way, it's not much to really be concerned with. But yeah, if you're going to do something tomorrow, if you're worried about the roadways, I guess get it done a little earlier. If you can. If not, just stay in. If you have a fireplace, be a great time to use it. Get you a warm cup of coffee or hot chocolate, or if you're of those of who like the alcoholic beverages of the alcoholic variety, a hot toddy would be a good thing. But yeah, it seems like a good day to just stay in and relax. That's what I would do, at least. I may hook up the fireplace anyway, to be honest with you. Obviously not tonight. Oh, one other thing I'm going to look at really quick is the temperatures. I am very curious about how this is going to look over the coming days. So obviously, with this front passing through, we're going to see things get colder. If my memory serves me correct, because I haven't had a look at this model data here that's just now coming in, I'm thinking that Tuesday probably ends up being the coldest day. Yep, Tuesday ends up being the coldest day. That's pretty much held up as a consistent trend with models. And then by the time we get towards the end of the week, we're starting to kind of level back off towards the deep south. Even towards the northern states, we're kind of leveling out, because If you compare it to what we were dealing with on Tuesday, where we're seeing some of the teens even as high as for parts of the Great Lakes and Midwest, not looking too bad by the time we get towards the end of the week. After that, we see another push. This is that other storm that I'm keeping an eye on around the 24th. Whew, that's a big push of cold air. Getting some below zeros over here. This is over towards the northern states, even tries to work its way into the Ohio Valley, possibly here. And these are high. These would be high temperatures too, theoretically. This 21Z would be about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, depending on your time zone. So yeah, we get a big push of cold air by the time we get towards the 24th to 26th time frame. And that cold air does linger. And that's right around the time frame where we have to be watchful of another system that could maybe manifest in the Gulf. So, like I said, a long-range pattern looks like it has a lot of moving parts with this as well. So, like I said, seems like I'm going to have a few headaches in the weeks ahead here. Either way, hope you guys stay tuned to see what my thoughts are on the next few forecasts. Beer and the kerosene heater. Yes, that sounds great. We don't have any alcohol here. Probably not going to buy any. I do have tea though. I have a couple of different types of tea, and I also have hot chocolate. So it's not really a need for a hot toddy. I'll have to check the local liquor store and see what the price of like a vodka is or something like that. Maybe I might do it. Maybe I might do a hot toddy with that or something. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Truthfully, probably gonna have to go to bed soon anyway. There's not really much more I can discuss right now. Malibu. There's so many different Malibus that come to mind for me. We're talking about the car is Malibu, California. But yeah, all right, guys. I think that's it for me tonight. Well, this stream turned out a little bit better than I thought it would. Oh, the bottle Malibu. Duh. That lets you know I haven't really drank much of that. But anyway, guys, I'm going to call it a night. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you. Because whenever these streams are a little quieter, it's not quite as fun. So if you can catch them, definitely, whenever you guys are able to catch them, I always appreciate it. Definitely get that notification bell on, because it seems like the rate we're going, we're probably going to do some kind of winter weather live stream at some point. We'll see what the timing is like tomorrow. If I can get on earlier in the day, then that's what we'll do. If not, then we'll figure it out. But everybody, take care. Have a wonderful rest of your night. With the temperatures dropping, make sure that you are staying warm, of course. And make sure you do what you need to do to keep that immunity up. We don't want anyone getting sick over here. But good night, everybody. See you next time. It will be soon.